Rejection off of 30,000 US dollars, Bitcoin is now tumbling massively to price levels not seen since a couple of days ago. But right now, are the bears preparing to shatter the Moon Boys' hopes and dreams and bring us down all the way to this price right here? So bring it on, baby bears. Come and give us your biggest dump. Right now, the price of Bitcoin continues to slurp and gurp below 30,000 US dollars, the tale of the last month or so, as we only briefly squeaked our heads above the $30,000 level for a very brief moment in time. And now, is what's happening right now showing Bitcoin having short-term weakness? And once you see a couple of these charts, as always, your life will never be the same. And there are a few massive things to cover before we jump into these charts here, and that is Janet Yellen herself saying the US faces a constitutional crisis over this debt ceiling deadlock. And according to Genevieve GR Dector on Twitter, banks have successfully fooled depositors into accepting 0.4% interest rates on savings, while banks are making 5+% on treasuries. The biggest risk for banks is the consumer, the everyday people, figuring out they can move their money out of banks and buy treasuries or money market funds themselves, or even better yet, Bitcoin. And according to Unusual Whales, the Treasury and the Fed may have to come in and actually restrict your right as a U.S. citizen to pull money out of the U.S. banking sector due to capital flight from the U.S. banking system. Hugh Henry said on Bloomberg, I've heard this echoed by other people as well, this is complete gobbledygook. Absolutely horrible if true. If they can actually restrict U.S. citizens from pulling money out of the U.S. banking sector, and you don't see why Bitcoin is insanely valuable, there's nothing else for me to say if you don't see the correlation there. So far, just a couple of banks have collapsed, but the amount of capital involved is completely monstrous compared to what we saw in 2008. We just started a new trading week, and if you think that the banks are done collapsing, I have unfortunate news for you. It's very unlikely that that's the case. We might go a couple days, maybe even a week or so without hearing of another bank collapse. But guys, the storm is very likely to be coming. Coinbase considering establishing an international hub in the UAE, as they've been much more positive towards crypto, much more welcoming, and much more rational towards crypto. It would be a very big blow to the US, not to Bitcoin. Bitcoin will be fine no matter what the US does, but it will, further and further sink the US further and further behind in terms of this technology. Lynn Alden talking about these types of budget deficit forecasts generally made with the presumption of lower interest rates. But with 1.6 trillion in deficits per year, it might end up being an underestimation considering what the interest rates are now. And explain like I'm 5 here, the interest on the debt that is owed was forecast at a much lower rate than what it's actually at now. So it will cost a lot more than what they budgeted for. Okay? So that's extremely big. I believe they also thought they would hit the debt ceiling about 2 months later than it actually seems like the U.S. is going to be hitting the debt ceiling. So another miscalculation there, most likely. Very key metric is that the Bitcoin hash rate continues to explode. And so very strong. And this sentiment I fully agree with as well by Martini Guy. Meme coins are trash. They're dumb and they don't make sense. But they don't need to make sense to make money. Because I agree with that. I think meme coins are, I've always thought they were pretty dumb. But at the end of the day, it is a game and it will get popular, then go up and then lose popularity and go down. Just ride the waves. Or the top comment also saying, ride the slime. I could add, go with the goo, ride the goo. And speaking of that, if you're interested in shorting or longing these coins, you can sign up with the links below to Femex and BitGet. Specifically, if you sign up with my link to Femex, you can earn free XPT, up to 10,000 free XPT simply by trading anything. When you sign up specifically with the link in the description, it takes 20 to 30 seconds to do. So yeah, that is an option available if you are interested in trading that. But if we take a squeak peek, in fact, actually, at Bitcoin right now, we are potentially heading down very imminently to this level of support, which we have spent the entirety of April, half of March, and now so far the first week of May kind of heading towards, which is kind of just right around that 27,000 USD level. Is there a bearish formation in the charts that could bring us all the way down to this level that we've been talking about for weeks and weeks? It is possible. I personally think if we would come down to 27,000, I don't even consider that a pullback. I still consider that ranging. Where I consider Bitcoin to be getting a pullback is what the same level that I've been talking about for the past like month and a half. 25,000 to 23,000, right around that range. So what that would look like on this chart, what that would look like on this chart is basically this range right here, which would kind of just bring us down to the highs of February and even the highs of kind of August of 2022. And also, more importantly, this level right around here where there was massive resistance as we were trying to break up. Remember, we were held down pretty much below 25,000 for nearly an entire year. So when we broke above in March of this year, just 2 months ago, when we broke above like 25,000, that was the first time we squeaked above 25,000 in nearly a year. That's pretty insane. I mean, if you think about that for a second, we were below 25,000 for about like 9 or 10 months. That's pretty big. And so again, if we have a backtest of this, that's absolutely kind of what I'm expecting if we actually can get a backtest. And if we look on a longer term chart, this is more so what it looks like coming down to these levels right here, give or take. Again, wicks obviously usually always go below the main level where it finds support. But yeah, coming down to right about these levels here, if we actually can get a full pullback. And now keep in mind as well, on the monthly chart for Bitcoin, we just got this MACD cross on a 30-day chart, so it's pretty powerful. I fully expect this to start yielding results over the next couple of weeks, because again, it is a very, very, very long-term indicator. It's a very long-term chart we're looking at. But in the meantime, if we dip our tip down to the $25,000 to $23,000 range, as I've been saying for weeks, I would add more to long positions there. I would get more bullish once we cement some sort of support if we actually come down there. And then I would expect over the next following weeks and months to then have a further bounce. So that has yet to be seen. But also, if we take a look at the top altcoin in crypto, Ethereum, we do have a very clear level of resistance, 2,000, a huge psychological number, and a huge fundamental support turned resistance for ETH. Which is also coinciding with 3 macro higher lows. Okay, first around, the initial low was around like 850, 800-ish, 900-ish, and then 1100 was the higher low, and then most recently about almost 1400 was the next higher low. So Ethereum, very likely, you can draw this as a ascending triangle, which is a bullish pattern. That is so bad. Why can I not draw just a simple triangle? There we go. Look at that. Disgusting. Ethereum looking pretty good there in terms of initiating a bust, and I think that will absolutely catapult a lot of altcoins as well if Ethereum does successfully do that. In the past, we have seen certain altcoins lead Bitcoin, be leading indicators. In 2019, for example, it was Litecoin, and Ethereum has also been a leading indicator. I believe Cardano has been a leading indicator as well. We take a look at the stock market. This to me, I mean, you could see this potentially also as an ascending triangle because there's a very clear level of resistance right around 41 to 4,200, and we've also kind of been ascending in terms of our bottoms. In fact, so this bottom actually in middle of March is higher than the one in December of 2022, so it is also still technically higher lows as well. Because this time it went down to about 37.70 and it only went to about 38 the next time on that other recent low. So that really remains to be seen. If quantitative easing really does kick in, then I fully expect the stock market to rally, but the Fed is trying to delay that as much as possible. But also Bitcoin is in the middle of a gigantic, multi-year long falling wedge. Now, if we want to make this even a little uglier, actually, you know what? If we look at this and see this come down to even something like the level we keep talking about, 23 to 2,500, that would be a very nice backtest area. In fact, we might even, it's possible we wick down a little even lower than that to touch on this 50-week moving average here. But we also have the 200-week moving average around 26,000. So, I mean, I'm just going to be honest. What my true opinion of this is that we have now been above the 200-week moving average for the very first time since back in August of 2022. We broke above it. It the beginning of March of this year is the very first time. Now, if we have our very first back test of the 200-week moving average, which we have not had in the last 2 months since we have broken above that, that would be very bullish for Bitcoin. It would scare a lot of people in the short term, but the reason I repeat myself every video on certain key points is to try to acclimate and condition you to understand that if we do get a pullback a couple $1,000s lower than we currently are, that is not bad. That is not destructive price action. That is constructive price action in a longer term bullish reversal. Now, let's play devil's advocate here. If we break below the 200 week, let's say we come and visit the 20 or the 50 week down here and break these lower, break this higher low and make it a new lower low, then of course we can get bearish. So I can sum it up with just price targets. If we breach below like 19,500, or let's be honest, even if we squeak below 20,000, that's pretty bearish. If we break below 20,000 again, then I think, okay, you know what? Maybe this whole thesis is wrong and maybe this gets a lot more bearish. But we're so far away from that at this point, where there's so many bullish constructive price setups that would have to be invalidated first before we could ever consider that. I mean, if you want to make a case for Bitcoin going to $100, you can always make that case. Is it rational? Not really. It's not very likely. Can you make the case for Bitcoin going to $1 million in the next 2 years? Yeah, you could make that case. Is it rational? I don't think Bitcoin's going to $1 million in this next bull cycle. I think that's way too high. As I said, I think a reasonable price target for Bitcoin over the next year and a half to 2 years is, my opinion, anywhere between 150 to 250,000, maybe tops. So again, that's only about a 3x from the previous all-time high in the last bull market. Around 210 would be about a 3x because it was about 70,000 was the high. And I think that's very reasonable considering a lot of money has been flowing into alts. Bitcoin dominance has been decreasing cycle after cycle. And the amount of sheer money that would need to come in for Bitcoin to hit even 200,000 is very big. So if I'm just being rational, do I think Bitcoin could ever hit $1 million? I'm kind of getting off topic a little bit. Do I think Bitcoin could ever hit $1 million? Of course, I think eventually. But in my opinion, it would be $1 million for Bitcoin, I think, at least maybe like 8 to 10 plus years from now. So still multiple cycles away, in my opinion. Could I be wrong? Sure, I would love to be wrong. But I think, I don't think Bitcoin's going to be hitting $1 million anytime soon. And take advantage of absolutely massive bonuses below if you want to trade with Femex and BitGet. Massive deposit bonuses, 0 fees when trading spot. And specifically, if you sign up right now and trade anything on Femex using my link below, you can earn free XPT. Just for a limited time. This is not going to be available for a long time. Many of you already have. It's just a very good opportunity as well. Without any further ado, that's it for me.